Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Thomas Hyman. I'm the founder and CEO of Realty Partners, and I'm very excited to talk to you today about building super targeted marketing lists. When I was working as an agent, one of the biggest things that I did was target listings, and I had two primary venues for going after listings. One was expireds, and the other one was farm area marketing, where I literally mailed out thousands and thousands of pieces of mail a month. And I honestly wish I had access to this technology that I'm going to share with you today back in those times, because what I'm going to show you today is really going to blow your mind. At least it did mine. When I sat down a week ago with a lady that shared this program with me, it was an aha moment, because my background is technology, and I had a meeting a few weeks earlier with some gentlemen from the big data environment, companies that deal in big data and data crunching, and we were doing a brainstorm. Wouldn't it be great if there's a way for us to predict when homes are going to be most likely to be put on the market? Wouldn't it be great if we could literally find out in a neighborhood of 500 people, who are the 50 people that will sell in the next year or 18 months, and then target those people? And then lo and behold, fast forward, I met this lady and she shared this product with me, and I was like, oh my God, it was a eureka moment. And I decided that I had to share this with you, because if you are doing any kind of direct marketing, this is incredibly valuable information. So let's take a look here. And I want you to ask yourself, what if you could create super targeted farm area lists where you can literally target those that are most likely to sell now? And what if, as a result, you could explode response rates 5-fold or maybe even 10-fold? And the company that is providing the service is called Corelogic. Corelogic is a big data company, and the website that they have set up is listsource.com. I'm going to put it into the comments below, and I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly how this works. Now, I'll put the camera on me now. I want to stress to you how important targeting it is. I don't know what your experience is with direct mail marketing. Some people kind of just use the automatic pilot thing. You take a listing, you send out 100, just listed cards, and then at closing 100 just sold cards, in hopes that that is somehow going to make things work. There's some companies offering these newsletters that are being sent out to every person in the subdivision, and you can own that subdivision, and then every month that newsletter is being sent, and they put a little bit of market data in it. And it's a way to keep yourself in front of the audience, so to speak, and not having to deal with creating the newsletter and so forth yourself. But then you may want to look at a little bit more targeted approach. When I was in the business building my team, I literally went and looked at about 15 different subdivisions at the time that were in the right price range. And I compared them, and I looked going back over the last 5 years, what is the turnover rate in that subdivision? Because, some subdivisions, you have a 10% turnover rate where 1 in 10 homes will go on the market and sell. And then there are other subdivisions, they're only 1 or 2% turnover rate. And so obviously you want to target the ones that have the higher turnover rate. And so I narrowed that down to 3 or 4 subdivisions at the time. And they each had between 300 and 600 properties. And so I would do my direct mail marketing, and I would send out, general letters, and I would send out general postcards. And then, of course, when I listed something or sold something, I used that card as the marketing piece to set forth. But it was really, really ineffective, because direct mail is very expensive, and you have to do it consistently, at least for an entire year, in order to see any results. And not being able to target further, obviously I was throwing away 75% of my marketing money. Now today, there are a number of companies out there locally in this market here. There's, for example, Prospect Plus, prospectplus.com. that has great direct marketing, direct mail pieces, and you can upload your own list. And there are other vendors out there too where you can create your own list and then mail out to that list. Now, some companies will offer to build a list for you, and it's generally just a list of homes in that subdivision, which you can run that report out of the MLS or out of the tax records yourself. Some of them will, just par it down. Let's say the list has 500 names, but you want to send out to 100. So every fifth record is going to be sent out. But what I'm going to show you right now is really going to redefine targeting in how you can put together a super targeted mailing list. And before I jump into it, I just want you to ask yourself, what are some of the key attributes that you would look for in a perfect list? If you're doing farm marketing, it is to get people to list their home. So you're looking for people that are most likely to list their home. And just in this market here, a couple of ideas to give you is that if I was an agent, I would want to have a person that has equity in their home. So I'm not concerned about the property being upside down and then it turns out being a short sale, and I really don't want to be dealing with short sales at this stage. I want to make sure that the person has lived in the home for at least 6-7 years. Most of the transactions seem to take place after 7 years, so that 7 to 10 year time frame. So I wouldn't want to bother with the 1 to 6 year time frame of ownership because those people are much less likely to sell. And then I would also look at homesteaded homes, and ideally, especially in the neighborhoods that I would target, as opposed to second homes. But of course, you can also flip-flop that, and you can target absentee owners that live in Canada, let's say, for example, to target. So let's take a look at the site, and I'm going to have to activate my screen sharing here. So give me just a second. And I will share my screen now. And I created a window here, an incognito window. So that it doesn't track cookies and so forth. And I'm going to take you through the whole thing. So if you go to listsource.com, which is the address for the site, and as you can see, it's a Corelogic company. And again, Corelogic is a big data company. They make it very, very easy to use. And you can literally, they got 134 million plus properties that are in their database. You can go here and register. And we're actually going to register as part of the list building. I'm just going to create a dummy account. But to build your list, you just literally start clicking here on Build List. And I would definitely advise that you spend some time here and click around and look at all these different things, because as you're going to find in a second, the detail that we can drill down by is absolutely mind-boggling. So let's go here and click on Build List. And it's going to get the process started, so you can actually start building your list without having to register. Then after you build your list, if you want to save it or you want to purchase it, then that will be the point where you register and you create a username and a password, and you can save multiple lists and you can access them later and so forth. So I'm going to create a list, and here on the left-hand side, you can see the criteria that will be listed as we build our list. And up here, we have the tabs for the criteria. So just, to look at it real quickly, geography, we can look by area code, census tract, city, municipality, zip codes, subdivisions, street names. So you can really look up a lot of different criteria. And so if you want to target a specific subdivision, this obviously is a great tool to use. I'm going to just play around with this. I'm here in Sarasota, Bradenton. Lakewood Ranch is an amazingly fast growing area. And so I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to look at the country club in Lakewood Ranch as one subdivision, so to speak, or just all of Lakewood Ranch based on the zip code. And so this is the first area that we can drill down by. Then we have, we need to select the geography first. Okay, so let's go ahead and find a subdivision just to play around with this. And we're going to select subdivision. Now we have to select the state, Florida. We select the county. So let's go to Manatee County and the subdivision. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in country club. Look up. It's going to bring up all these different, legal names. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's take this here, and let's take just Country Club East. And okay, so this would be the Country Club subdivision. So as you can see here, we now have 487 homes in this subdivision, and let's play around with that, and then we'll change it and expand it, because one of the things about direct targeting with a list is you can improve your response rate drastically. Obviously, if you're looking at homes that are most likely to sell, you're going to filter out 75–80% of the properties. And so instead of doing, let's say, a direct mail campaign to 487 property owners every single month, sometimes I used to do bi-weekly, every other week, which again gets expensive. Even if you use standard rate postage and use one of the mailing houses, it still gets expensive. So if you can narrow it down and mail to, let's say, 50 homes instead of 500, then you're going to find that all of a sudden your response rate jumps from 2 to 3% up to 10 to 15% or even better, because those 50 homes are the most likely to sell. Now, will you miss one or two? Will there be one or two in the 450 that you filtered out that will sell? Sure. But the bulk of the transaction is going to be in the list that you're building. So let's take a look at that. So we've selected a geography here. Then the next item is mortgage. So here we can further narrow down by the type of mortgage that is on the property. And you can, for example, just go by first mortgages or junior mortgages or all mortgages. And here are the criteria that we can go by. What kind of mortgage is on there, even what kind of lender there is, what kind of mortgage rate, the maturity date, the mortgage amount, the loan type, the interest rate, loan to value, the loan to value ratio, either right now or loan to value at the time that the loan was made. So you can here combine loan to value or the original loan to value of the property. So you can go here and sort out by that. So let's say you want to have 80% LTV. There's another area where you can sort by equity. So I'm going to leave this here clean right now. We go to the property tab. Here we have a myriad of criteria that we can go by. And one of them is current home value, for example. And I'm going to use that later when I get into an entire zip code area. But you could sort by loan value, by home value, current home value. We can go by equity percentage. So let's go ahead in here and we'll look for homes that have at least 70% equity. So I'm not picking here 1 to 20 and so forth, because I just want homes that have at least 70% equity. Let's make it 60% equity. Oops, here we go. You can even sort by underwater if you want to target short sales. But we want to have equity of 61% or higher. And let's add that over here. And you can see already the list dropped down to 150. Now, maybe you're fine if they have, 40% equity. Let's bring it down here so the number goes up. So these are going to be homes right now that either were paid cash or that were financed with a relatively small mortgage or that had a mortgage for a long time. And now the advantage of using equity in your equation, and you want to play around with that a little bit, is because if somebody has equity in their property, it's going to be a much easier deal to work than if somebody is so close that they have to get a certain price in order to be able to make a sale even work. Let's take a look at what other criteria we have here. We have styles of homes, types of homes, year built. Now, I'm looking for people that have owned their homes for at least 6 years or 7 years. So I wouldn't go by year built because, somebody else might have sold that house from when it was first built. But over here, we can look at last market sale date. So you can search by sale date here, but we can do the same thing under some other tabs as well. And here is, for example, one that I want to look at first, and that's homestead. I'm going to select only homestead. So take a look at the difference. 190 are coming down to 75. So what does it tell you? So that means that there's 120 homes out of the 190 are owned by absentee owners where they're not homesteaded. I want to zero down on the 75 homesteaded because, one of the things when you do a aggressive direct marketing campaign, it's a lot more effective if the person is living there, and then you can bring in some additional pieces. You could mix in having a amazing package dropped off at the house, maybe even couriered or dropped off in person when you have 30, 40 homes and it's a high quality list. But, if people are living in Canada and in Germany and in England and they're all over the place, you really cannot create that kind of high touch marketing. So let's take a look at some other criteria that we have here. Property type. Obviously, I am looking only for single family homes. I don't care about vacant lots. I don't care about condominiums. Now, if you want to target condos, obviously it's a different story, but I want to get just down to residential single family. And since this is obviously a subdivision, I'm going to select residential PUD, which is code for subdivision. And nothing changed here. So because in the country club, these are all single family homes, but if you go by zip code, it could make a huge difference. You could also target waterfront, for example, or style, different things. So depending on what you want to target here, you can drill down further. Now, the next tab I'm going to show you is demographics. And here we can drill down criteria of the owners. And we can either by household, or we can have the first owner or the second owner. Let's keep household. And the first one that we can do is age, the age of the household. You can even go by estimated income, ethnicity, gender, interests, investments, lifestyle attributes, the type of magazines that they subscribe to, so what their interests are, marital status, whether they're married or not, religion, year of birth. So it's just an amazing set of of criteria that you can drill down by. And let's say we go by age here. Now, I would imagine that most of the properties in this specific subdivision are going to be owned by this crowd here. So let's see what happens. Okay, 50, so 2/3 are owned by 55 or older. Let's add this in here, 54. So obviously there are some young professionals in here, but if I wanted to target a specific age set, I could do that. Now, why is that important? Well, my marketing message is going to be very different to, let's say, this group here than, let's say, this group. Okay, so if you have a larger number of properties, and we're going to build one going by zip code, we'll target all of Lakewood Ranch, and you have, let's say, 500 properties that you're going to target in the end. If you can break down the age group and have one type of marketing and one type of message going to the 55 and older crowd, because they're going to respond to a completely different style of marketing and really more fact-based and low-key, as opposed to your younger crowd, the 25 to 45-year-old crowd that is going to be much more hip on technology, that's going to respond to certain offers that will take them to a website or have them send something from their mobile phone. So you can really drill down and offer different kinds of marketing based on their age group. Now, also, of course, you could drill down by by gender, if homes are owned by a woman versus a man, if what kind of interest they have, et cetera, whether they own a business or whether they're employed or they're retired. So again, these kind of tools allow you to really drill down and fine-tune your list based on the demographics of the person. Let's go back here and let's look for properties that have been owned for several years. So let me go ahead and find this. This is the sale date, but there is another criteria in here. Length of residence. Here we go. We're targeting specifically people that have homesteaded the property, so we can now drill down by how long they've lived there. And let's say we'll go here 6+ years. And as you can see, it really reduces the list down to 7. So in this case, you can play around with the demographics. You can play around with the mortgage criteria. We went by or by equity. If you want to have your equity percentage adjusted, maybe we're okay with people that have 30% equity in here. That's going to, well, not really, raise the number a little bit. You can, and on the left-hand side, we have the criteria that we have selected so far. So we have property equity criteria, homestead property, length of residency, type of residency, and as you can see, from 400 something, we went down to 8. Now here are some properties that are corporate owned that are excluded. Homestead property only, again, that reduced the list coming down from 450 to 153. Here are the number of properties that have X amount of equity. So let's say we want to build a list that is a little bit more encompassing than a small subdivision that only has a couple of hundred homes. So let's go ahead and remove all these criteria here. And you can do one way is to just click these red X's here. Another way, of course, would be to change the other criteria, but I want to start with the geography, because I'm just going to change this now from a subdivision to a zip code. And again, you can be as exclusive as you want to with the criteria. So you can take a subdivision of 500 and you can drill it down to 50, or you can drill it down to 5. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to select zip code instead. I'm going to go down to zip code, and we're in Florida. And most of Lakewood Ranch is going to be in 2 zip codes, which is going to be 34202 and 34211. Pretty sure that's what it is. So let's go ahead and put those 2 zip codes in there. And so now, with the criteria that we have 2,466 homes. So let's drill down a little bit further. First of all, on the property, the current home value, I want to have it be at least 300,000. See if that makes a difference. Yep, it brings it down to 1,800. And if you want to bring it up to 400,000, we'll remove that. Brings it down to 1,100. Let's make it 500,000. Now down to 700 homes. So you can target by estimated price range, and this is an estimation, like a realist type of valuation that you have through the MLS, or Zillow-like type of Zestimate. So here we have the current home values, and you could remove things by just clicking on the red X here. Now equity. Let's say we want a little bit more equity. So that brings it down to 629. We do want homestead only. Let's remove this for a second. And let's go back in to the homestead and redo that. Okay, 629. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the equity and redo that, just because I want to make sure that it doesn't carry over some criteria from before. So let's go here, 40 to 100%, 530. If you want to increase that number, you can go here to 31 to 41%. Obviously, 31% equity. They're still going to be good to go on selling it and walking with money. Length of residency. Obviously, if you are not narrowing by homestead, then you would want to remove that length of residency, since somebody that isn't homesteaded will have not lived there. So length of residence, let's remove all of those and just see if it makes a difference. Okay. Add this back in. No, it's the same, 629. Now, if you want to increase your odds, and let's remove this one here, 594, 7 years plus. I think that's a good criteria. You could even narrow it down to 8 years plus. Obviously, the longer somebody has lived in the home, the greater the odds that they're going to get ready to sell. Also, if you target it by age now, obviously, if somebody is in their 60s, then they're going to be much more likely that something is going to happen where they need to sell. Where having, the home is no longer practical. But then you also have to target your marketing accordingly. So you can really drill down this list and narrow it down even further. For example, you can look here at the direct mail lists that they are part of. Now, what I personally would want to do with a list like that is I would want to narrow it down even further. So what I would do is go to the property value. Now, first of all, some of you may not be comfortable dealing in $3 million plus homes. I wouldn't have a problem with it, but let's remove that 500,000 thing here, and that's going to bring down the list a little bit more. I'm going to deliver very high touch marketing, so I want to make sure that that I have a little bit more of a high end property where the party can appreciate what I'm going to bring to the table. Now, when I looked at this earlier, there were some other interesting criteria where you can sort further. For example, if you wanted to find absentee owners, so let's see here. Oops, that's the wrong. I wanted to hit homestead. Let's change this back to no preference. And let's see what kind of other options we have. Under other options here, we can sort by phone numbers. So if you want to make sure that the person has a phone number because you want to make phone calls, you could sort that. Let's say if you have a team with a telemarketer, you could, have the list include phone numbers that get scrubbed against the do not call list. And then you could have your telemarketer make outbound calls. Obviously, you would want to get a much bigger list then. Now here we have owner occupied or absentee owned. Okay. Here are trustee owned properties. Obviously, trustee owned properties in most cases are going to be investor owned properties. The same with corporate owned properties. In this case, we have them excluded, but we could bring them back in. There's only 125 here, corporate-owned properties. But generally speaking, if the property is being held by an LLC or a corporation, most likely it's an investor. Trustee-owned, it's hit or miss. If you go into the very high-end properties, they may have somebody might put it in a trust, but generally speaking, they won't. But let's say if we switch here to absentee owned. Now for this specific criteria that we selected, the absentee owned group is very, very small. But you could use this absentee owned list and you can drill down even further. If you have properties with in-state owners or out-of-state owners, let's say we only want properties that are out-of-state owners. And down here, you could even specify which state the person is from. So you can really drill down into the type of ownership that there is for the property. Now, let's say that this is what you got. You drilled down all of Lakewood Ranch and surrounding areas and properties that are worth $600,000 plus, where the person has lived for a minimum of 8 years, and we're talking only single-family residence homes, and you're ready to have that list exported, 370. And again, this is a very large list. If you have the resources to do aggressive marketing, if you can spend $1,000 a month to market to this list, then that is something you want to do. Otherwise, you would want to narrow it down even further. So you can now save the criteria, or you can purchase the list. And let's just go to purchase the list, and I'll show you how easy it is. We'll just call this here the Lakewood Ranch test list. And I'm Joe Tester. Testing rep. You put your agent in there. Real estate. You can commercial, multifamily, residential, whatever. Company, my company. The address is phone number, let's say 875-5689, which of course is a dummy number, and Joe at testingonly.com. How did we hear about it? Other webinar. I'm going to use the data while direct marketing for myself. I'm not a list broker. Now I do need to submit a password here. So you just put in a password. I'm going to agree to the terms. And I hit submit. So now here it tells you thank you, blah, blah, blah. You're going to have to use PayPal to make your payments. You can call the sales department if you want to use a credit card. If you don't have a PayPal account, you need to get one. It's free. So I use PayPal all the time. So it's not an issue for me. And I'm waiting for ListSource to complete its thing. Which only should take a few more seconds. And you'll be quite amazed at the amount of criteria, not only in your selection and list building, but also the kind of info you can get on the list output itself. All right, so the account has been created, and you can edit your list now, or you can buy your list and make more lists. So let's say we go here to buy my list now. And there are a couple of things I want to point out to you here. The first one is the list right now as it stands, 370 count. We have the standard output data, which includes all of this information: owner name, last name, first name, the mailing address, the property address, city, and so forth. We have geography-related information, which in this case is just a zip code. Property-related information, property type, length of residence, current home value, equity percentage, demographic information. And then there are options. You can, sometimes it will give you additional options. In this case, they're not here. There's some preset selections here and optional fields. And if you add things, then it gets added to the price. Right now for the list of 370, you're looking at $248, which really is a very, very low price given the quality of list that you are getting here. Now, you can get different kind of output packages. If you're a mortgage broker, then you have your mortgage leads, which will have somewhat different information then property detail. So as a mortgage broker, for example, you'll be interested in the type of mortgages and interest rates and things like that. This here is, the standard property detail report fields that are available. So if you want to get these additional information, then we'll just check that box here. Now, you can also ask them to remove duplicate property mailing addresses. Notify me 15 days before deleting the list. So once you buy the list, it's still going to be online, and you can access it. Over here, you have additional things that you can request if you want that information. Like the mortgage amount, equity, first mortgage interest rate, junior mortgage interest rate, owner transfer sale date. So we want to get the actual date, the deed date. So there is really a myriad of information that you can get here if you want to narrow things down, or if you want to customize your mailings, because these are all fields that you would import into your database, whatever your CRM solution is. You use Top Producer, or use Act, or use Goldmine, or you use Infusionsoft, or any of the different CRM solutions. These will be data fields that are pulled in, and then you can mail merge them into your letters and so forth. Now, another thing you can do is you can purchase partial lists. Let's say you don't want to buy all 370 leads, and you want to buy, only 100 leads, or you want to buy every second lead up to a maximum of 150, or some kind of custom selection. So you can select partial lists, and you can, recalculate and do that. So let's say, for example, if we only want to have every second with a maximum of 150, I'm going to recalculate that. So we only got 150 now, and the cost is $100.88. Let's say you already bought a list in here from a specific subdivision, but now you decided, I'm going to do the entire area. So you can use suppression lists here, and you can have lists built that will be removed, either your available lists here that are already purchased or that you already did in the past. So you can have a suppression list, and you can suppress against it, which means basically if you have a list that has, let's say, let's remove this, you get all 370 leads, but you have a suppression list that has, 500 names, of which 200 are part of this list, then it would filter those out, and you wouldn't buy the names again. And then you just can continue on to the checkout. So really, it's a very, very easy to use program. And I hope that this gave you some ideas. Again, as a real estate agent, as a business person, you really have to look at, how am I going to generate my business? And there are, two primary kind of focuses. One is the buyer side, and one is the seller side. And if you're working the seller side, then direct mail is really, really, really important. And the great thing about direct mail is that you have the ability at this day and age to narrow down, with much more specificity. You can't go on Facebook yet and buy a list, or go through Google and buy a list, an online list of people that are a certain age and have a certain amount of equity and have lived a certain length in their property, and where the property is worth X dollars, and where it's located in a certain thing. You're just not able to do that yet. At some point, I'm certain you will be, and you'll be able to reach out to them online. But right now, direct mail really is the name of the game. And so when you do direct mail marketing, number one, it has to be really impactful. You have to, I mean, really use super duper, 11 by 7-inch giant postcards or packages that look like they're a gift, or padded envelopes that have stuff in it. I mean, because I sort my mail at the garbage bin, and I throw out and toss out everything that just remotely looks like it's junk mail, okay? So if it's a postcard, it has to be huge, stand out, and grab my attention immediately. If it is a different piece, a letter or a package, it has to be something that will create the interest in me to open it up. And so really effective direct mail pieces can be expensive. I mean, you might spend $2, $3, $4, $5, maybe even $10 per item to be really, really effective. So if you have a high quality area and you can drill down the list to only 50 people, then you are able to do some really amazing marketing, especially when you have a 10 to 15% response rate. So instead of, or in addition to just sending out the average newsletter or postcard, you can actually drop off packages there. You can actually endeavor to knock on their door and leave something if you can't reach them. It just opens up whole new possibilities in your marketing to attract those kind of listings. So again, I hope you got something out of this. I appreciate your time. And we do have that Q&A button on our page. And right now, I don't see any questions posted. So feel free to email me. Feel free to put a comment on the Facebook page or the Google Plus page or the YouTube page wherever you see the video, and I'll be happy to talk to you further. And again, thank you so much for investing your time and joining this webinar. And I hope you'll tune in again next week when we have our next training session. I'll be sure to send out an email inviting you with the subject a few days ahead of time. Thanks so much and have an amazing day.